In a number of spiritual paths, your deeper questions might find answers in a session in the pastor's study. You're looking for something more, so let's offer you something different. Merry meet, blessed be. I'm Aiden Odinson, High Priest of the Temple of Gaia, a priest of the Universal Gnostic Fellowship, etc. Welcome to another session in a very different pastor's study. I'll have to say I feel a bit more comfortable with that title than the Sabbath School class. Sabbath School class number 1, we're doing this more often than on Sabbaths. And number 2, if you remember Sunday school, even if you're talking about the adult level Sunday school, you're talking about a bunch of people being led around by the nose. The bulk of it, little children being told by adults what they need to say and do and think. And a lot of the remainder being adults being led around by people that purport to be their betters, telling them what to say and do and think. Not a lot of, what do you want to call it, intellectual stimulation? Inspiration to go out and explore? No. I didn't find that much of that, so we'll try to do some of that here. I don't like the idea of, well, the one thing about a pastor's study, I'm not so enthused about the word pastor, because pastor has to do with shepherd, which has to do with sheep, and you're not allowed to be like sheep. If I hear about any of you going around saying, well, Aiden said this and that's all I need to know, no, that's not acceptable to Aiden. Okay? I'm not going to allow you to think, I'm going to require you to think. And what we're talking about today is definitely one of those where thinking is mandatory. Because today we're going to look at the devil. Yeah. We might as well. Certain spiritual groups, I won't name them by name, you can name them as well as I can. They put so much emphasis on their so-called devil that the concept, really, we do need to discuss it. And as a matter of fact, if you listen to some of them talk, they give so much power to their devil. The devil did this, and the devil did that, and the devil's doing this. And you go into this particular group of people, you'll find the devil there, and the devil's taken over this, and you vote for this particular candidate, you're going to be voting for the devil. These people give so much power to their devil. I have a serious question for them. Whom are they actually worshiping? Especially when they give so much power to their devil that their God seems a wuss by comparison. And some, of course, others use it for various other excuses. And that's where we come in, because I'm not sure, I know absolutely. There are some among them who are going to say that that's whom I'm worshiping. No, it's not. I can't worship what I don't believe in. And you know what? If you take a look at the subject, you're going to discover a few things. Number one, the devil didn't really come into being until the New Testament. As a matter of fact, when the New Testament was being pretty well laid down. Now they talk about the devil being in Job, but if you take a look at the devil that they talk about there, they talk about sometimes using the words Satan, which comes from the shaitan, which is basically traditional Hebrew for like a heavenly prosecutor, a member of the heavenly court whose job it was to point out people's shortcomings. And especially if you understand what a prosecutor was in those days, or even into as recently as 19th century Europe, you can see that role. No, the real first appearance of the devil, as the Christians like to talk about it, the devil, was in the 40 days after Jesus was baptized. The 40 days that he spent in the desert. And according to the story, the devil told him, well, hey, look at these rocks. You can make them into bread and feed yourself. Take a look at all these wonderful cities and empires in the world. Worship me and you can have all this. Or up on top of a tall building and, hey, jump off and really impress the people. And they'll follow you. Well, you know what? If Jesus, Yeshua Bar Joseph, were half as smart a guy as I think he was and is, he didn't need a devil to bring those thoughts to his mind. By that time, he'd had some pretty good idea of who he was and what he was supposed to do. And if you knew that about yourself, wouldn't you have some thoughts about, hey, here's some other things that I could do instead, and they'd be safer, and I could be rich. Wouldn't that be cool? So no, didn't need a devil for that. However, never underestimate the need for a boogeyman. It's one of the reasons why I said during the Bush administration, during the George W. Bush administration, that Osama bin Laden was safe, because good boogeymen are hard to find. And so, now we're coming to a time where people are thinking a little bit more rationally and a little bit more balanced, and so maybe it's time for this message. Because it occurs to me that even pure logic makes the devil seem awfully illogical. Have you studied the law of polarities? Most Wiccans are very familiar with that. So are most pagans. The law of polarities, the law of opposites. Thing one on one side, thing two on the other. Light, dark. Good, evil. Okay. The Christians describe their devil as being absolute evil, but at the same time some others, talking out of the other side of their mouth, talk about how their devil loves goodness, which is why good people can wind up being snared into doing their devil's work, or so they say. Well, you know what? Isn't that a bit of a contradiction? And it's true that you wouldn't have pure evil. And so, yeah, we wouldn't have pure evil. Pure evil wouldn't be able to make any use of goodness. Now, it's true. It is possible to be really, really evil. And there are people living to this day who have experienced how that possibility is. Cambodians who've lived during the reign of the Khmer Rouge. People who lived in Germany during the time of Hitler. And some others. The Americans who kept saying that there's no evidence to show that Pol Pot is anything other than the agrarian reformer he claims to be. And there were people who weren't worried about Hitler. Well, let's take a look. Most Germans first saw the Nazis as people who were offering practical advice that worked. And not only that, free picnics on every Sunday. Okay. One day out of every 7 you didn't have to worry about how much your food cost. And some practical advice and some practical help. I remember reading one little pamphlet about what we really need is a good 10 pfennig meal. And it had a recipe for a meal that was reasonably tasty, could feed a family, a small family, for 10 pfennig, which would probably be about 2 cents or so in modern money. Okay. We know it came of the Nazis, but there's where they began in the eyes of the German people. So, Dr. Mengele, a very evil person, was an eminent surgeon. I can go on and on. Now, yes, I will admit, I will agree that there are evil people, evil beings, and yes, evil spirits. I've had a few too many opportunities to deal with them. And I'm not going to go too much further. I will say I know why the Vatican keeps information on the subject of exorcism under tight control. I know what I've seen and experienced. And that's all I'm going to say on that, my own experience. But the big thing that I want to get across here, the main point that I want to make, besides there's enough evil that we don't need to make anymore, the big bottom line, as the guys with the cutesy MBA degrees say, at the end of the day, we don't need to give evil any more energy. The best thing we can do to evil is to turn our back and focus on what we're here for and about. And see what we can do, rather than obsessing about some supposed enemy who can't have any more power than we give it. I'm Iden. Blessed be. Uriel's Gifts and the Secrets in Plain Sight are sponsored by the Temple of Gaia. At Temple of Gaia, we don't train you to our path. We show you how to find and pursue your own path. Above all, we tried to provide a great place to come together and to share. We're located in Collingdale, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, and wherever cyberspace can be reached. To learn more, visit our website at templeofgaiainc.org or our meeting place in cyberspace at templeofgaia.ning.com. Thank you for coming. Feel free to return at any time. We intend to always have something for you here. Blessed be. This has been a presentation of the Wise Ones Net. Merry part and blessed be.